Hi, my name's Allie, and I'm making this video about getting through depression and anxiety and things that have helped me through these phases in my life. I'm not coming at it from a professional perspective, but more of just a personal place. So the first thing I want to say is just to be really patient with yourself, because it's not necessarily about just trying to make it go away. Oftentimes there's reasons why we're feeling depressed or anxious in our lives or going through some kind of a funk. Sometimes there's things in our lives that need to be changed and tweaked and just managed a little differently, because it's showing us that maybe doing the same things that we were doing before maybe wasn't working out for us. So there were things that I realized in my life that I was doing that I really needed to change, and these changes took place over a gradual process. And so it was more like this phase in my life was more about it was definitely a growth phase. So if you're going through something like this, if you're going through depression, anxiety, general an overall funk, this can also be a huge growing process for you. So I just wanted you to know that, and just to be really patient with yourself. So it's not about just making these feelings go away. It's more about an overall okay, what can I do better for myself in my life? How can I treat myself better? So yeah, I just hope that you're able to have compassion for yourself during this phase in your life. And also, even when you're not in your best place in your life, there's little pockets of enjoyment. And so I'll talk a little bit more about what I mean later. But there were points in my life where I had to get rid of a lot of things and just kind of say goodbye to some people. And it brought me just back to a space within myself where I could really feel myself and my thoughts and what I was going through. And just paying attention to my own thoughts and my own mind was really extremely valuable. And not having, all the other noise out there, it was so valuable for me to go through. Even if I was kind of in a funk, it was kind of a hermiting kind of phase for me of just sifting through things that I didn't need anymore and creating things that I wanted in my life. So I'll go ahead and start talking about the first thing that was really helpful for me was to cut out people that were bringing me down, basically. Or at least if you can't cut certain people out, trying to minimize your experiences with them, trying to minimize your time with them, because time is so valuable. And the time that you spend being around people, the time that you're allowing yourself to do certain things, that's huge, because your time is so important. So for me, I had to realize that certain people in my life were just not the healthiest people for me to be around. Not to say that they were necessarily bad people or horrible people. I needed to release certain people in my life who were not helpful for me in my growth process. There were people who were kind of more bringing me down, people who were making me feel anxious and just kind of leading me down the wrong path. And not to blame anyone, because it's no one else's fault for what I'm choosing to do and how I'm choosing to think, but there are going to be people who, don't necessarily influence you in the best ways. So that is something that I had to realize, and to realize that, okay, sometimes it's better to spend your time alone than it is to spend your time with people who are not helpful for you, not serving you, who are bringing you down, who are not able to be happy for you, who bring drama into your life. It's better to spend time alone, in my opinion, than it is to surround yourself with people who are just not healthy for you and your mindset. The people that I realized that I do want to spend more time with are the people who do add more value to my life, who are able to celebrate my wins and celebrate my joys with me, who encourage me to follow my intuition rather than encouraging me to do something that's, on their own agenda. It's helpful to have people in your life who are able to lift you up rather than you feel like you need to protect yourself from. So if you find yourself protecting yourself from certain people, I would look at that and say, is there any way I can minimize my time with that person, or what's going on with that person? What's this dynamic? And for me, I found that I did need to release certain people from my life, and it's okay. And the type of person that I was before, I would kind of just hang out with anybody and just accept anything. And there's a difference between acceptance and allowing things to consume time and space in your life. It's okay to accept people for who they are, but I don't necessarily want certain types of people to be in my life and to take my time and my energy and resources, if that makes sense. So I became really selective with who I had in my life, because I realized that the people in your life really do have a really huge impact on you. And when I was going through a lot of anxiety, I realized that it was because I was allowing people to treat me poorly, to treat me badly. I was allowing people in my life who were a little bit leaning narcissistic, it was kind of more about them, it wasn't really about me. So I had to realize that and then make some adjustments. Also, I'll say that it's really important to pay attention to the types of conversations that you're having with people. Generally, I prefer my conversations to be uplifting and about hope, about things that are nourishing, about what we're creating in our lives, and or just really I really enjoy being around pleasant people. And of course, if you have friends, you can have really good friendships and relationships with people who sometimes, you don't always feel your best around them. Sometimes they're not always talking about the best things, because we all go through things, and nobody has to be positive 100% of the time. So I'm not saying like, the moment that somebody doesn't make you feel your best, like, to cut them out. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it's just like, generally if it's always happening with certain people. And there were certain people that I realized, they were always talking about, like, they're always going through cycles of crises, and I couldn't necessarily be there all the time with these people, because I didn't have like long-term friendships with them, and I couldn't allow people to just use me and take up that energy and that space in my life. So I just had to let go of certain people and hopefully direct them to somebody that could help them, like a professional. And that's all you can really do at certain points. But in my life, I've attracted a lot of people who want to come and talk to me about their problems and their crises, but I noticed that they're not necessarily doing that to everyone. They're just doing that to me. And it is because I am really empathic, and I do want to listen, and I do care about people, but there's a point that I have to care about myself and realize, okay, where am I spending my energy? Like, am I spending too much energy on other people, listening to other people, when I should be working on myself? And ideally, you need to be spending most of your energy on yourself. That's not selfish at all. Like, you are the only person that can really truly take care of yourself, and you are like the CEO of your life. I know you've probably heard that before. So if you're spending so much time on other people, like, how are you going to have the energy to create your own goals and your own dreams and to create your most fulfilling life? So I spent so much time talking about, creating these boundaries with people and discerning people, because it is really important. And so another important thing is to invest time in your own self-care, in your own self-love, just really taking the time to invest in yourself, investing in your healing. We all have things to heal from. We all have things that we're working towards. We're all trying to grow in some way. You're not going to be perfect, and just embrace your imperfections. A thing for me that's really a part of my self-love is taking time to meditate and doing affirmations and creating like warmth in my body and in my system and in my emotions. So what I mean by that, not the temperature warmth, but just feelings of like love and compassion, and especially towards yourself. And of course, when you do it towards yourself, it's going to reflect on other people too. Something I found so helpful for me was meditating and like doing these affirmations. And I have some meditation affirmations that I have created. I made them last year, so I'll link some of these below. Maybe they can be helpful to some people. And it depends on what we're needing in our lives, but a lot of times when we're going through like a depressive phase, we need things that are more about like self-empowerment, about like compassion towards ourselves, self-love, overcoming challenges, like being able to live more peacefully, feeling safe, living with ease. These types of affirmations we want to use to really nourish ourselves. So that really helped me. I noticed when I was attracting people who brought me down in my life before, I realized like I had never really taken the time to nourish myself and really do like self-care. Of course, I did care about myself, and I took time to, I did yoga and I did certain things, but I realized like I needed more. I just needed more. Like, I needed more relaxation time. I needed more time to give to myself, because I was giving too much to other people. And also, a lot of us were not brought up necessarily with people who were compassionate towards us and like super loving towards us, not because by choice, but maybe they just didn't have the capacity to do that. Like, maybe our parents or our caregivers didn't have the capacity to really invest in us and praise us and just generate a lot of warm feelings within us, or to make us feel safe, or to make us feel nourished. So we have to often do that for ourselves as adults. So it's so important just to try to take the time, not to try, but just to do it, just to take the time to do that. And a lot of us were raised with having a lot of negative self-belief systems about ourselves. So if we didn't get a lot of love and nourishment as we were growing up, a lot of times we will subconsciously as children create a lot of not like kind of like stories in our minds, but just a lot of we'll hold on to a lot of self-doubt, we'll lack the confidence, we'll lack self-love, like we'll lack a lot of these things that we do have to kind of generate and create for ourselves later in our lives if we do want to live the most fulfilling lives. So if you do feel like a lack of confidence and a lot of self-doubt, it's not your fault. It's really helpful now if you start to realize that like you can kind of almost like reparent yourself and recondition yourself to feel and to think a certain way about yourself. One thing that can really help with this is EFT, and that's tapping. So you tap certain parts of your body, like one of it's the head, and then above the eyebrows, and then right here, and then right here, and like right here. And so what this does is that you do this and you say the affirmations that you want, like, you know, I am safe. So that's a huge one. I am safe, because I think a lot of us don't feel safe, including like myself. Like, I really had to work at feeling safe just in general. So that's definitely one of my foundation, like, go-to affirmations when I find myself feeling a bit of chaos, is just, you know, I am safe. So that's just an example. Like, you can say anything. I'm safe, I'm loved, I am fulfilled, I'm confident, I'm worthy, I'm enough, and just saying that while you're tapping. And I'll link an actual tapping video down below. I'm not a professional at this, but I've used it. I've used these techniques. I've used different techniques over time, but this one is really helpful. Also, another one is to be mindful of what you're consuming in your media. So if you're watching a lot of movies that have a lot of negativity in it, a lot of gore, a lot of horror, a lot of things that are not like warm feelings, I would try to not watch that. Like, minimize it, or just not watch that at all. Like, I don't want to watch that at all. I want to watch things that are nourishing, that have a lot of love in the storylines, that have a lot of like, that just generate like happy, positive feelings within me. And I know, you know, life isn't always like that, so when people do create movies, there's going to be like sad times and different things, but I generally try to stay away from like things that are bloody and things that are just like scary and create like senses of anxiety in me. Like, I want things that, you know, like when you're watching something, your subconscious mind kind of thinks that you're also going through it. So it's best to watch things, for me, that are just really loving and wholesome, because then you'll feel that emotion as you're watching it as well, and it'll like generate more of that feeling in you. And so for me, relaxation is so important. Relaxation and doing things that create a sense of joy in me. Going and taking the time to spend out in nature, that is one that I do not compromise. Like, I have to go and spend time in nature. That I find that's really important. And even like walking around bare feet, and just that has a really positive effect on your body and your whole system, like your emotions and everything. And it's so important to do what I love too. So doing something that you love, like finding what you love. I love to do music. I love to play music. If I don't play music for a while, I don't feel good. So that could be, you know, whatever hobby that you like to do. It could be reading, or it could be like crocheting, or it could be making jewelry, or, you know, creating something. Whatever it is, like, it's really important that you take the time to do that. Resting is so important as well. If you find yourself that you're just busy all the time, I would try to create a lifestyle where you have time for yourself to rest. And I know that's easy, that can be easier said than done depending on your current lifestyle. Just trying to take the time to look at your life and where you're spending your time, and like, how can you spend more time just relaxing, and just relaxing in like a comfortable position just by yourself and just chilling. Like, for me, that's everything. Another thing that I found really helpful was to have a consistent exercise routine. And it doesn't mean that you have to become like a gym rat and have fitness goals or things like that, but it can just be like, you know, taking 30 minutes every day to do something that, you know, generates sweat, like to do something that makes me sweat, or just to do something active. Like, that is really important. I notice a huge difference in the way that it makes me feel. So I've gotten to a point where I really do enjoy intense exercise, but, you know, if you haven't really started exercising at all, you can just start with walking, or you can just start with like jump roping, or something like that's super simple, or just, you know, walking on the beach, or walking in the woods, or something that where your body's moving. I also really like to do yoga. I find that yoga is really helpful. I find that yoga is also really helpful for trauma too, because it releases a lot of tension, and it has a huge effect on your emotions. So if you don't have a yoga practice already, I highly recommend having a yoga practice. I have a couple yoga videos I'll also link below, but there's so many yoga videos now on YouTube, so you will not have an issue finding that. So yoga, Pilates is cool too, or, you know, whatever you find, like any way that gets you to move. Like dancing is awesome. I would try to, you know, find time every day, like try to find time every day to move if possible, or most days. Another tip that I found was helpful is to be of service to others. So there's always going to be people who are less fortunate than us. So, you know, sometimes it can be helpful to, you know, take time to volunteer for them, or, you know, put gift baskets together for Christmas. Like I did that one year. I put gift baskets together for homeless people, just little snacks. Or, you know, if you don't have the resources to do that, that's fine too, but I do find that it's helpful to try to give like some kind of service to others at some point. It just helps like generate like more compassion in your heart, and it makes you feel more connected to the world, because you do have you do have the ability to impact other people. Another thing is self-empowerment. So it's to create a goal and to try to do things every day, or at least on most days, to work towards that goal regularly. So I listened to an interview with Shawn Mendes, who is a singer, and he said something that was like, okay, this is really awesome. So he said something that was really resonated with me. And so he said, you know, if you go to the gym and you go every day, you go consistently, something's gonna happen. But if you stop going because you're not seeing results, like nothing's gonna happen at all. So if you're doing something and if you're putting the effort into doing it, like something's gonna happen eventually. And so I think with a lot of goals and a lot of different things in life, like we don't see results right away. Like it's, you know, it's going to be rare that we see immediate results in a lot of things that we're working towards. So if we put some effort and time into working towards like our goal every day, we're not going to notice that results are happening right away in the moment, but like over the course of like 5-10 years, you know, we're going to see results if we're making the effort towards it. So it can be whatever it is, you know, maybe it's getting better at public speaking, or maybe it's getting better at you know, making jewelry. Maybe it's getting better at, you know, swimming or running, or whatever it is that your goal is, that's something that you want to be good at. It could be like a career, it could be towards a career, or it could be towards a hobby, but just like setting, like just having your goal, like something that you want like to accomplish, something that you want to get better at it, and just making moves towards it every day or regularly. It's going to help you it's going to help you have your sense of purpose, like your sense of like working towards something. And it's going to create a feeling of like self-empowerment. And another thing that I think is really important is eating habits. So yes, the nutrition, but also like the timing of eating, because I noticed that sometimes I wouldn't eat all day and I would feel anxious all day. I'd feel anxious and jittery, and then towards the end of the day I would eat and be like, okay, I feel so much better now. But I didn't eat for the whole day. So I really have to be mindful of eating earlier on in the day, because that will give me fuel for the rest of the day. So I'm just trying to structure, you know, be mindful and structure like my eating into my lifestyle more, because that can be something that's easy for some of us to forget about. And sometimes I just don't get hungry towards the end of the day, but the earlier you start to eat anyway, it'll activate your metabolism, so you can get kind of used to it. So even if it's just eating a little bit, you know, a little bit of lunch or something like that, just to, you know, have that fuel. So that is really important. And it has also a really big effect on mood as well. And another thing is the nutrition. Just making sure that you're eating a lot of nutrient-dense foods, so a lot of veggies, a lot of nourishing foods, a good balance of, you know, your carbs, your protein, and your vegetables, and just making sure that you're eating things that are unprocessed, you know, not just like dry, crunchy foods the whole day, but just eating things that are nourishing. For me, eating things that are cooked and warm. Like for me, if the temperature is warm and I'm eating something like warm, it's gonna help. It just feels so much better in my belly, and it's so much easier for me to digest. But everyone has different requirements. Like some people do really well with salads. Like I'm not as much of a salad person, but I do like to have some raw veggies as well. So just finding what works for you. And also vitamins can be really helpful, because I notice that I get depleted in zinc really easily, and that kind of shows up in my nails too. If I get depleted in zinc, if I'm not taking my zinc supplement for a while, I'll start to see these white spots or these white lines on my nails, and that is an indication that like I'm definitely depleted in zinc. So I have to take a zinc supplement every day, because for some reason my body doesn't retain zinc very well, and this can be like different for different people. Like some people don't retain like vitamin D as well, so they have to take more vitamin D, or there's different nutrients that like some of us get depleted in. So it can be really helpful if you maybe go to the doctor and take a blood test and see if there's anything that you're deficient in, because that will have a huge impact on your overall mood, your overall like feeling, your experience of life. Even being depleted in the minerals will give you a harder time sleeping. So there's so many different things ways that nutrition can help you out, especially in like when you're feeling anxious or depressed too. So that is also a really important one. So those are the things that I have for today. If you find some of these helpful, let me know in the comments, or if there's other things that you find helpful, also let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more content, please subscribe. It helps more people see this content. I hope you have a really warm and beautiful holiday, and I hope to see you in the next one.